One day, your airline will carry millions of people across the world. Your planes will rise over oceans, cities, deserts, and storms. Your logo will appear on airport screens in every major country. And when your company makes one decision, thousands of passengers will either make it home or be left on the ground. But today, you are 9 years old. You are standing behind a fence at a small airport. Your father is staring at the only plane your town depends on. And that plane is broken. The propeller is still. The left engine panel is open. A line of passengers waits beside the terminal door. Some are angry. Some are scared. One woman keeps looking at her watch. A man in a cheap suit is trying not to cry. He has to reach his mother's hospital before morning. But the plane will not move. Your father is not the owner. He is not the pilot today. He is the mechanic. He knows every bolt in that old aircraft. He knows which panels rattle in the wind, which gauges lie when the air gets cold, and which parts should have been replaced months ago. The company owner stands near the ticket counter. His suit is clean. His voice is loud. He says the delay is unexpected. Your father says nothing, but you see his hands. They are covered in grease, and they are shaking. That night, the flight is canceled. The passengers leave one by one. The man in the cheap suit sits on the curb with his bag. Your father closes the engine panel slowly. Then he tells you something you never forget. A plane does not forgive cheap decisions. At first, you think he means metal, wings, engines, fuel lines, and tires. Later, you understand he means people. The next morning, the local newspaper says bad weather caused the cancellation. There was no bad weather. The company lied. They had delayed the repairs for weeks. Because repairs cost money, and canceling flights costs reputation. That is the first lesson aviation teaches you. Airlines do not sell seats. They sell trust. For years, you grow up beside the same runway. You know the smell of jet fuel before you know algebra. You know the sound of a healthy engine, and the sound of one that should not be flying. You watch pilots walk across wet pavement before sunrise. You watch baggage workers lift suitcases in freezing rain. You watch passengers hug at arrivals, argue at ticket counters, sleep on plastic chairs, and stare through windows at planes that are late. You learn that a delayed flight is never just a delayed flight. It is a missed wedding, a missed surgery, a missed funeral, a missed goodbye, or one more night a father does not make it home. Your father takes small airport jobs after the old airline cuts hours, fixing fuel carts, repairing ground power units, changing tires on aircraft nobody wants anymore, and driving out to remote airstrips where the wind never stops. Sometimes he brings you with him. You sit in the passenger seat of his truck. The runway lights look like tiny stars on the ground. At first, you only see planes. Your father sees systems. He points to an empty gate and says, "A bad schedule can kill a good route." He points to a tired crew and says, "A cheap ticket is not cheap if it is paid for with exhaustion." He points to a mechanic checking a wheel in the rain and says, "That man is holding more lives than the man in the office." You start asking questions. Why do some airlines delay every flight, while others leave on time with older planes? Why do some small towns lose service, even when people still need to travel? Why do airlines buy new aircraft, then forget the people who keep them flying? Your father answers what he can, but the person who teaches you the deeper language is Captain Reed. Reed is an old pilot with silver hair, calm eyes, and a voice that never rises. He flew cargo through storms, medical flights through mountain passes, and passengers on aircraft older than some airports. He carries a small notebook in his jacket. Inside are weather notes, fuel calculations, and names of people he refused to risk. Reed tells you a good airline is built on 3 things: safety, schedule, and trust. He says most owners understand only the schedule. A few understand the money. Almost none understand the fear in a passenger's chest when the wheels leave the ground. At 15, you get your first airport job. You are too young to touch engines, so you clean hangar floors. You stack safety cones. You carry coffee to mechanics working night shifts. You wipe oil from tools. You count luggage tags until your eyes hurt. Older workers call you the fence kid. Some say it kindly. Some say it like you should know your place. You listen more than you talk. You hear which airlines pay late, Which managers push tired crews? Which pilots refuse unsafe aircraft? Which routes lose money only because the schedule is stupid? Which small airports are ignored by every large carrier? At night, you spread route maps across your bedroom floor. Your mother thinks you are studying geography. You are, but not the way she thinks. You are studying movement. A city with no morning flight. A hospital town with no direct connection. A factory city where workers drive 6 hours to reach a major airport. A college town where students pay too much for bad service. You begin to notice a pattern. Big airlines do not ignore small cities because nobody needs them. They ignore them because small cities do not look powerful on a map. At 21, you leave home to study aviation management. The classrooms are bright. The models are clean. The professors talk about fleet utilization, slot rights, fuel hedging, and passenger yield. Other students dream about first-class cabins. You dream about the broken plane behind the fence. Other students study airport lounges. You study maintenance logs. Other students talk about global brands. You count how many towns lost their last reliable flight. On weekends, you visit small airports by bus. You talk to ground crews. You talk to dispatchers. You talk to old pilots who still drink terrible coffee from vending machines. Some ignore you. Some laugh. But a few talk. They tell you the truth. A route can be profitable with the right aircraft. A plane can be old and safe if it is respected. A crew can stay loyal if management does not treat them like numbers. And passengers forgive delays when they believe you are telling the truth. At 25, you get your first real job at a regional airline. Not in the executive office. Not in the marketing department. In operations. You wake before dawn. You track aircraft rotations. You call crews when weather shifts. You watch one late plane create 10 late flights. You learn how a missing fuel truck can ruin a morning. How one sick pilot can break an entire schedule. How a cheap part can ground an expensive aircraft. How a bad apology can turn passengers into enemies. Your boss says you worry too much. The crews say you ask too many questions. The finance team says you care too much about things passengers cannot see. But Captain Reed says the unseen things are the airline. For 3 years, you learn the business nobody puts in advertisements. Gate timing, crew rest, spare parts, fuel delays, weather alternates, maintenance reserves, passenger trust after a bad day. You also learn what destroys airlines. Growth without discipline, discounts without margin, routes opened for ego, crews stretched too thin, and owners who treat safety as a department instead of a culture. At 28, you find the plane everyone forgot. It sits at the edge of a small airport, behind a chain-link fence, beside a hangar with peeling paint. The aircraft is old. The seats are worn. The paint is faded. One engine needs work. The tires are flat. The bank calls it scrap. Your old classmates call it career suicide, but your father walks around it twice. Then he touches the wing and says, "It is not dead. It was abandoned." You use your savings. You borrow from people who should probably say no. Your mother agrees to help with the books. Your father agrees to help with the repairs. Captain Reed agrees to help with the training. You buy the plane. Not a fleet. Not an airline. One aircraft. One route. One chance to be wrong in public. The first month is brutal. The engine repair costs more than expected. The airport fee is due before the first ticket sells. The radio needs replacement. The seats need new belts. The paint job has to wait. Your mother tells you exactly how many days you have before the money is gone. Your father works beside you until his hands ache. Reed makes you rewrite the emergency procedures 3 times. You open ticket sales for the first route. A small town to a larger city. 48 minutes in the air. 6 hours by car. The first booking arrives at midnight. Then another. Then nothing for 2 days. You refresh the sales page until your eyes burn. On the morning of the first flight, only 17 passengers arrive. You greet every one of them. You load one suitcase yourself. You check the cabin twice. You watch your father sign the maintenance log. You watch Reed step into the cockpit. And when the plane finally starts moving, you feel richer than you have ever felt. The flight lands safely. No cameras come. No one calls it history. But one passenger shakes your hand. She says her son made it to surgery on time. That is enough. For a while, Your airline survives by inches. One route becomes two, two flights become four. The old aircraft flies carefully, rests often, and gets inspected more than anyone thinks is normal. Passengers notice the honesty first. When there is a delay, you tell them why. When there is a storm, you do not pretend the sky is friendly. When a part needs replacing, you replace it before it fails. Then comes the first real test. A storm system moves across the route. The radar looks ugly. The competitor takes off anyway. Their gate agent smiles and says they are on time. Your passengers look at you. Some are angry before you speak. You cancel the flight. Not delay. Cancel. You pay for hotel rooms you cannot afford. You arrange buses for people who cannot wait. You stand at the counter while passengers shout. A local reporter films the scene. By evening, your airline is being mocked online. Too scared to fly. Too small to compete. Too careful to survive. That night, the competitor's flight diverts after a rough approach. No one is hurt, but passengers come off pale and shaking. The next morning, the same reporter calls you disciplined. You do not celebrate. You know how close luck can look to skill. But the town remembers. The next week, your flights are full. The month after that, you lease a second aircraft, then a third. You hire crews slowly. You train them hard. You pay mechanics before you upgrade offices. You build a rule that annoys investors immediately. No aircraft flies if maintenance says no. Not for a wedding party. Not for a politician. Not for a full cabin. Not for you. Your company grows through trust. Small towns begin calling. Hospitals call. College towns call. Factories call. Mayors call and promise press conferences. You ask for weather records instead. By 34, your airline owns 8 regional aircraft, serves 19 small cities, and has one reputation. You are boring. Boring maintenance. Boring schedules. Boring safety checks. Boring honesty. Passengers love boring when they are 30,000 feet above the ground. Then the rival appears. Victor Cross owns the fastest-growing low-cost airline in the country. His planes are new. His ads are loud. His tickets are impossibly cheap. He arrives at a small airport in a private jet. His smile is perfect. His handshake is cold. He offers to buy your company. The number is bigger than anything your family has ever seen. For one moment, you imagine saying yes. Your parents would never worry again. Your crews would get newer aircraft. You would never sleep on an office couch after a delay. Then Cross says the quiet part out loud. He says your maintenance costs are emotional. He says your crew rest rules are old-fashioned. He says small passengers only care about price. And you see the same kind of owner who once lied about a broken plane. You say no. Cross smiles. Then he tells you no is expensive. After that, everything becomes harder. He undercuts your fares. He buys airport advertising beside your gates. He pressures fuel suppliers. He hires away 2 managers. He spreads rumors that your aircraft are too old. He does not need to destroy you. He only needs passengers to feel doubt. For the first time, you understand that an airline is not just airplanes. It is gates, fuel, maintenance, training, dispatch, weather, software, labor trust, and public confidence. If you want to survive, you need control. So you build your own maintenance base, then a pilot training center, then a crew scheduling team, then a small dispatch room that watches weather all night, then a parts warehouse near the airport. Every step is expensive. Every step makes investors nervous. But every step removes one hand from your throat. At 39, your company wins its first major airport slot. Not many slots. One morning departure. One evening return. A route from a forgotten city into a major hub. The first day sells out. The second day sells out. The third day has a mechanical delay. The old fear returns. Reporters wait at the gate. Victor Cross posts a joke without naming you. Your operations team asks if they should push the aircraft. Your father is in the hangar that morning. His hair is gray now. He looks at the mechanic's report. Then he looks at you. You cancel the flight. The money hurts. The headlines hurt more. But the mechanic later finds the deeper fault. A small crack near a mounting bracket. Not dramatic yet. Not visible to passengers. But real. The next day, You promote the mechanic who refused to sign off. Your crews talk about it for weeks. That is when your airline becomes more than a business. It becomes a culture. After that, growth gets faster. Governments call. Airport authorities call. Investors who once doubted you ask for meetings. You open routes carefully. You refuse cities that only want headlines. You accept cities that need reliable service. You add larger aircraft, then cargo flights, then medical transport agreements, then international connections. Your network grows in layers. Regional routes, maintenance bases, training centers, cargo hubs, long-haul aircraft, loyalty systems, airport lounges, and a global operations center. By 46, your airline is no longer small. Your planes cross oceans. Your crews speak dozens of languages. Your control center tracks storms across continents. Your mechanics inspect aircraft while cities sleep. Your company is still called careful. Now people say it like a compliment. Then Victor Cross returns. His airline is bigger than yours, but weaker. Too many routes opened too fast. Too many crews stretched too thin. Too many aircraft flying with barely enough time on the ground. Too many angry passengers, angry pilots, and tired mechanics. Cross wants a merger. He calls it a historic partnership. Your board calls it the fastest path to global dominance. Your mother calls it a very expensive headache. Your new safety chief is Lena Torres. She is calm, precise, and difficult to impress. She inspects Cross's operation for 2 weeks. Then she brings you a report. The planes are not the real problem. The schedules are. The training gaps are. The exhausted crews are. The culture is. The board wants the deal anyway. The market wants the deal. Victor Cross needs the deal. But you remember the fence, the broken plane, and the man who missed his mother's hospital room. You reject the merger. Your stock falls. Commentators call you afraid of scale. Cross calls you a regional mechanic with a global logo. 3 months later, one of Cross's airlines suffers a major operational collapse. No crash, no disaster, but thousands of passengers are stranded for days. Crews time out in airports. Bags pile up in terminals. Maintenance delays spread across the network. His lenders panic. His partners leave. His empire starts selling pieces of itself to survive. You do not celebrate. You buy only the routes your system can absorb. You take aircraft only after inspection. You hire crews only with retraining. And for every new airport, you keep one promise. No schedule that depends on luck. No maintenance postponed for optics. No crew pushed past the edge. No passenger lied to just because the truth is expensive. At 52, the world changes again. Fuel prices swing wildly. Passengers demand cheaper flights, cleaner aircraft, and fewer delays. Governments demand lower emissions. Old airline executives say the future is impossible. New technology people say old airlines are finished. Your company stands between both sides. You do not pretend flying has no cost. You do not pretend the world can stop moving. You build for the transition. More efficient aircraft, lighter cabins, better routing software, sustainable fuel contracts, electric ground vehicles, and training programs for mechanics who will work on the next generation of planes. People accuse you of trying to please everyone. You say no. You are trying to keep the world connected without lying about the price. By 58, your airline carries millions of passengers every month. Your logo is on aircraft tails in major airports, small airports, cargo ramps, training centers, maintenance hangars, and emergency medical flights. When a storm closes one hub, your operations center rebuilds the schedule before sunrise. When a child needs a medical transfer, your team moves faster than the paperwork. When a mechanic refuses to clear an aircraft, executives listen. Not because you are kind. Because you built the company to understand that ignored warnings become headlines, and sometimes graves. One evening, you bring your father to the new international terminal. He moves slower now. His hands are still rough. His hair is white. The old grease stains are gone, but the habit of checking machines never left him. You stand together by the glass. Below you, aircraft with your logo wait at the gates. Baggage crews move in clean lines. Pilots walk toward their flights. Mechanics inspect landing gear under bright lights. Families board for cities you once only saw on maps. Your father watches for a long time. Then he says, "They look ready." That is the first time you feel richer than the numbers say. Because you did not build the biggest airline simply because you loved planes. You built it because you learned what happens when people trust a company with the sky. Now your planes carry students, doctors, workers, families, athletes, strangers, and people trying to get home before it is too late. But every time an aircraft leaves the ground, you still remember the fence. You remember the silent propeller. You remember your father's shaking hands. You remember the passengers walking away from the broken plane. And you remember the promise you made before you even knew how to say it. If you ever owned the airline, you would never let speed matter more than the people inside the plane.